No, it's over.
All right. Good morning, everyone. It is now 9 o'clock. I would like to call to order the Barrier Islands Government Council meeting. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We'll start with our roll call to my left, and we'll go around the room.
Anne Marie Brooks, Mayor Madeira Beach.
Lisa Hendrickson, Mayor, Reddington Shores.
Tyler Payne, Mayor of Treasure Island.
Okay, up to you. We'll go around the room. Thank you.
Good morning, it's CJ Hoyt, Town of Reddington Shores Commissioner.
Good morning, Eddie McGeehan, Commissioner, Madeira Beach.
Donovan Peters, resident.
Dawn Peters, Pinellas County School Board Member and Reddington Beach resident.
Good morning, Barry Rubin, President, Treasure Island, Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce. This is the coolest little box.
Adriana Neves, Town Clerk, Town of Reddington Beach.
Good morning, Mike Howard, Counselor with Indian Shores.
Good morning, Clint Belk, Fire Chief, Madeira Beach.
Sergeant Sapanera, Pinellas County Sheriff's Office.
Good morning, Michelle Hargit, Administrative Assistant to City Manager Greg Mims, Indian Rocks Beach.
Stanley Silverstein, Interim Director of Gulf Beaches Library.
Good morning, Rich Cariello, Vice Mayor, Town of Reddington Beach.
Good morning, Cookie Kennedy.
Good morning, Larry Shear, citizen of Indian Shores.
Good morning, Ray Kerr, Commissioner, Madeira Beach.
Good morning, Tim Johnson, Waterfront Realty and Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber Board of Directors.
I really wanted the box. Good morning, Gina Johnson, Waterfront Realty.
Robin Miller, Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce.
I'll do both. Why not? Alex Harsh at Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce.
Sam Jenkins, SPC's Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions.
Good morning, Robin Gomez, Madeira Beach City Manager. Welcome.
Bill Quinn, Mayor, North Reddington Beach.
Denise Hausberg, Mayor, Indian Rocks Beach.
Turn your mic on.
Diane Shear, Mayor, Indian Shores.
Good morning, Bruce Rector, Mayor of the City of Clearwater.
Good morning, Mayor Steve Bloom, Bel Air Shore.
Good morning. I'm Dave Gaddis, Mayor of Bel Air Beach.
And I am David Will, Mayor of Reddington Beach. Hey, do we have any changes to the agenda? And can we get an approval?
Move to approve.
All in favor? Aye, agenda approved. Can we get an approval of the minutes from our last meeting? To approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's approved. Moving on to the treasurer's report, Mayor Gaddis.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the month of May, we began with a balance of $663.01. There was deposits in the amount of $600 and one disbursement of $61.25, giving us an ending balance of $1201.76. There was a report of all that paid their dues, and to date, there's only one left, which is St. Pete Beach.
Thank you very much. Can we get an approval for the?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dave, thank you for filling in that. Brings us to our next topic, which would be an appointment of a treasurer. So in the past, we would form a committee, and that committee would select a treasurer. So
I'll volunteer.
I'll volunteer.
I'll volunteer.
right, so we have our committee. Okay. So you will meet and we'll suggest a new treasurer, and we'll have that for our next meeting. Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to new business. We have a presentation by Sergeant Saponara of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. We're going to talk about service animals today, and we're going to talk about the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it's a did you know kind of forum today. So thank you for being here and enlightening us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Good morning, all. So issues with dogs on the beach that we've run into over the years. I've been a supervisor out here of the various beaches on our B-day shift for a little while now, and it's constantly something that definitely comes up. So one of our main things is, well, initially there's two animals, a mini horse, which I have yet to see as a service animal. I believe it exists. We haven't run into that, and dogs obviously are the more obvious one. If it's something, when we approach, if it's something obvious, sight impairment, physical disability, and it's very clearly the dog providing a service, we're not even going to ask the questions at that point. It's kind of based on what the ADA says. That's enough to see that's clearly providing a service for someone. If we get called out or we make contact otherwise, the two questions the ADA allows us is the animal required because of a disability? If they say yes, what task is it trained to perform? At that point, they can explain to us what task it's trained to perform, and there's not a lot beyond that unless there's something at face value that strikes us as different. So they're supposed to be in control of the animal. The only exception the ADA provides if it's off leash is certain situations and where it's not practical for the person to have a harness or leash on the dog, which I think is more on the rare side. But there would be situations where it would be permissible. And at that point, I think in most circumstances, you're going to see that dog right with that person or rather than off the leash. The ADA is very strict. So with things like the visual thing, like I spoke about, there's not a lot more once we see something that we're gonna dig into or we're able to dig into. The more we do enforcement, this is part of it, is the more that people are gonna know and potentially be able to circumvent what we're doing if we're out there and what the cities want to do with preventing dogs. So that's something always to keep in mind. And then also we have the tourism, obviously, on all of our beaches. We have people from out of town that may be not as familiar. I think it was 2018 is when this law was enacted in Florida, where we do have now, there is a misdemeanor, it's a second-degree misdemeanor for falsifying a service dog, whether it's based on what you're saying, what you're presenting, something like that. Ways that we can prove that, it's, and Captain Liner was supposed to be here. He's out of town, so I apologize. That's why he is not here. Him and I spoke before about this, so I wanted to make sure that y'all knew he was not able to be here. He apologizes. But for the gray area with that, if we're asking the questions and then we see the dog jumping around, playing and things like that, just like any other investigation that we would conduct, we can see that and that can lead us to believe maybe there's something going on and this isn't the dog. Yeah, that's not a definite though. And the ADA does provide, there are things within the statute saying if the dog's causing a problem to the public safety and welfare, what an entity is allowed to ask and what they can do at that point. So, I mean, if the dog's growling, barking and trying to bite people, then you have a little bit of a saying like that doesn't really seem like that animal's providing much of a service if it's doing that. Being off leash in and of itself, the dog goes into the water and then comes right back. That's something where we're a little bit more difficult for us to say that that's absolutely not a service animal just because it did that. They say, well, my dog wanted to cool off, it was hot. So, yeah, you're gonna run into a little bit of wiggle room there with what we can get and what we can't. Again, that investigative tool that we have is everything we say. It is very specific in the ADA that emotional support animal is not part of this. So if someone straight away says it's an emotional support dog, I'm sorry, it can't be on the beach. The ADA has things that are in, I think, what emotional things, but it's disability is the fact. American Disability Acts, disability is the definite part of that. So if someone has a psychological disability, mental disability, something that they require medication or the dog can remind them for, under the ADA, that does qualify. It just, they specify the difference between what an emotional service dog is and what the ADA qualifies as a service dog. The documentation isn't something at this point where we're required to ask or certifications or able to ask for that. And most people don't present that anyways. I can't think of the last time somebody had paperwork, but again, just like anything else, if someone wants to hand us paperwork and it seems that it's obviously not, something's odd about it, or it doesn't seem like something that could lead us into investigation again, where we go down that whole of the criminal charge. I was speaking earlier, the criminal charge, the punishment per statute is doing community service. I believe it was 30 hours with either locations that specify with disabilities and person with disabilities. So it's kind of an interesting way to look at a punishment as preventing that. They really wanted to stop that idea to prevent people from, it takes away for those who really need a service dog if people are abusing it or lying about it, and that's not right for the people who actually need those dogs. I know we have different definitions of different beaches. If the beach doesn't outline it in the ordinance, we use the state definition of what a beach is. And I know there's the issue with private property, public property and all of that. There was the other thing about being is off leash too. I think a lot of the leash laws could be something that could be applicable as well. If it's not a service dog, or even if it say, hey, well, the dog is not on a leash, it's unleashed. Why is it unleashed? And again, there's certain exceptions to that with the disability that the person may have if they're not able to hold on to that dog. So that's a good roundabout gist of it, about kind of where we're at. We definitely want to do stuff. We want to help out. We want to be able to prevent dogs being on the beach when it's in abuse of this, but in the same sense, we want to make sure that we're also being fair and treating people equitable under the Americans with Disability Act and those who have disabilities. And with us giving that information to us and saying this is what we have, there's not a lot further that we're going to press on them. That would lead us into trouble possibly. I don't want to be that person who has the sheriff's office sued by the ADA because I made someone cry, doubting their service dog ability and asking all these questions, which I was like, I'm not a veterinarian, I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to go down that road to where there's something I don't know. I can take what they give me, but as cops, we have feelings. And if you have a hunch that something's not right, maybe that's something you look into a little bit more without violating the ADA guidelines. So, anyone have any
Thank you. Do you have
questions?
any questions for Sergeant?
Yes, ma'am.
So if we're to educate people that do want to bring their service animals to the beach, like what kind of language do we give them to say, you know, bring your legal paperwork or whatever if you want to justify bringing your dog to the beach?
You could go based on and they can look it up on the language on the ADAs is the statute's pretty clear about what qualifies for that. So if they're wanting to bring their service dog on the beach, they have a service dog with it, just be informed on what it is so that if somebody asks them, whether it be a business owner or someone in our position or one of you guys that says, hey, is this animal provide a service? Yes. What does it provide? And the person says, you know, I have a bad hip. Sometimes I may fall over. This dog provides that service. We're not required or able to really ask for that documentation paperwork. But again, if they bring that and someone wants to volunteer that, all the more easier to be like, I got this. So that way that if there is that dog on the beach, someone sees it again and calls us or one of you guys again, has a complaint. Well, we spoke with that person and vetted them. They actually even provided paperwork, which goes beyond, which puts everything to rest.
Okay.
So that would be my
And then
recommendation.
it's never a monetary fine. It's always this community service now, if it's a non-service animal.
I believe there, because it's a very long statute, and I read it before I got here. I want to get the meat and potatoes of it. I don't know if outside of community service, I didn't see that there was a fine associated with it. I know the federal statute for service animals had something about fines, but I don't want to tell you something I'm wrong about the financial part of it.
Okay, it might be decided by individual city.
It could be something like
Yep.
that. Again, if we're making the arrest at our level for a Florida statute violation, then that's obviously something that the judge, if we bring that to the judge, whether or not we make the physical arrest, send a recommendation to the state attorney, they can handle it however they'd like to handle it. Maybe, I mean, it's possible a fine could be in lieu of the community service.
And then do you normally get a lot of calls about dogs on the beach?
So today I'm filling in for St. Pete Beach, but most of the time I'm supervising our squads that include Madeira Beach, Reddington Beach, North Reddington Beach, Indian Rocks Beach, and Bel Air Beach. I would say it depends on the time of the year. When it's nicer out, it seems to be, we get a decent amount of calls for that. It's not an overwhelming majority of our calls. It kind of comes in waves. I do know from hearing though, St. Pete Beach does get quite a few calls about dogs on the beach.
Well, and what I found on Indian Rocks, it's like by the time they call the non-emergency line and you get there, they're gone.
And that's another thing
Yeah.
too. And that's just like with anything, if someone calls about some drunk folks on the beach, sometimes, I mean, I'm very proud of our agency and our squad. We get there pretty quick. We're really good with our response times and, but sometimes somebody's gone or but someone gives different direction, someone who's from out of town. Well, they were behind this business when I saw them. And then we get out there, we're walking up and down the sand looking for a person with a dog and we haven't seen it. The only exception was when Reddington Beach had horses on the beach. A lot of people pointed me in that direction. That was,
Okay.
that was an easy one.
Okay.
But the dog's not as much, and there's a lot of people that are sympathetic towards dogs on the beach who might not want to call us or tell us
That's
things
right.
as that as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
You were asking for what language or what you can say right from the American with Disabilities Act. And that's why we're talking about this today is just here are the facts and you can do with them what you wish. But whether the animal is required because of a disability and what work or task the animal has been trained to perform. So that is something that if someone inquires to you, can I bring my dog to the beach? Those are questions that you can ask. And then also let them know if you are willingly misrepresenting yourself, that's a second-degree misdemeanor with 30 hours of community service. So I don't know how many people knew that, but just to put that out there to try and limit some of the people who take advantage of this situation and are really minimizing the actual service animals who are helping actual people with disabilities. And as the sergeant said, the key word here is disability, not comfort, companionship, and all that others. So just having those facts that you can present, and hopefully that would deter the people who are actually taking advantage of that situation.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the board have a question?
One more question regarding type of dog or species. Is there any requirement for
There is not, and the ADA does not have clear, and I do apologize, Mayor Bloom, I did leave up Bella Shores, another area that we also are on, but it does not have a specification for dog breed. I know traditionally there were certain dogs that were looked at more as service dogs, German Shepherds, Golden Retrievers, and Labs and such, but as the language is written right now, there's nothing to specify breed of dog.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Also, a service dog is one animal.
So that appears, I would say if they have a dog walking business and there's 5 or 6 dogs, that lends a little less credibility to the ability of a
The
service
shopping
dog.
cart with 3 wiener dogs at Publix is not a service animal.
Yeah, and that is for Publix and what they do and what they ask. I
Right.
know I've seen new signs and stuff like that
Yeah.
there. So that is, yeah. It's an interesting case. It's very, you always want to treat something with the Americans with Disabilities Act and federal law as delicately as possible. But then you also want to be able to uphold the things that the state, that we have the ability to work with that. And I'm glad that the state gives us some truth to it. And like you said, informing our deputies and folks that there is criminal penalties associated with this rather than it being there's nothing that anybody can do. I mean, a lot of times telling somebody that might be even more of a deterrent than a citation might be. That's more of like the average person doesn't really want the idea of getting a criminal record for having their lying about their dog.
Right, this information will help those people think twice, and then if you were asking somebody these 2 questions and they don't have an answer, and then they understand that there's a penalty that goes along with that, that might help for the deterrent. I just would like to, the whole reason for this is to uphold what this act is originally for and keep the people away who are trying to, take advantage of that.
Yes, sir. I am very in favor of ensuring that anyone with a disability has every right to that dog and can bring it where they want. I don't want it to be a trend where people are abusing a system of any kind to prevent someone with disabilities from utilizing that.
Does anybody else on the board have a question for the sergeant? Nobody? Robin, you had a?
Yeah, I was just wondering if it'd be possible to get something in layman terms, not, police terms, to distribute to the business community, especially like the hotels. So if they have an animal check-in, hotel room with animal, we would be able to give them the factual information like this is a service dog, blah, blah, blah. And then the reverse, what you just presented is wonderful information. If we could get that to give it to all our businesses so that they clearly understand it. Businesses change hands, managers change hands, and it's always a conversation, especially in the tourism industry with restaurants and hotels.
So I would say both the Florida statute and the federal statute that covers this has all that information on there. Obviously, I see what you're saying more of.
Like landed with PCSO, maybe from the communications office or something?
I could inquire about something like that, and I think businesses individually, I would want to say it would be incumbent upon the business individually to author something reflecting that in their policies, because there's some hotels that don't have a problem with dogs at all in their buildings. So as long as they're correctly reflecting what the ADA is and what criminal things, I don't see that we would write something up for them necessarily branded with ours, just because that's something that if they're going to call us and enforce, it's up to them if they even want to call. Like you dealt with people that are not as concerned as others about dogs on the beach and what is the dog doing, this and that. But then you have other people that, and I think that if their city ordinance or state or whatever they're going through is wanting to find a reason why that shouldn't be there, they're the ones making those calls. So I can always look into it. It's something I can definitely ask about, but I can see that being more along the lines of something the businesses themselves would have to kind of interpret and write out and issue.
Or maybe through the municipalities?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Well, I like that idea of a simplified fact sheet referencing the Americans with Disabilities Act. Thank you, Robin. Richard?
Yes, you seem to be talking about the Disability Act.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the person is walking their animal and they're approached and they admit that it is not a service animal, that they just have an animal on the beach walking. What action is being taken, if any?
At that point, then it follows based on city ordinance, they can be cited or warned based on city ordinances. And I think for a lot of our ordinance violations, it's a case by case. We have discretion, obviously, but if it's repeat offenders, such as someone's been warned before and it just doesn't care, we'll cite them. Sometimes information is the key. If somebody's unaware of that dog on the beach rule, like I said, with the tourism that we have, that can happen, but education is always a good thing, but there would be penalties associated based on an ordinance violation for being in violation of that.
So how would you know if there's a record of a repeat offender?
We keep track of that in our database. Anytime we issue a warning for whether it be a traffic warning or an ordinance violation warning, we always document that for that exact purpose, that if we have someone who's doing it on a repeat basis, then the discretion might change a little bit to where we say, well, we've already had this conversation. Clearly, you're not concerned about it. So now there's a penalty associated with it.
So basically, you're saying anytime a person is approached, will be documented as to whether or not at your discretion, you just ask them to leave, or what there is a documentation on.
Yeah, and each deputy, I'd give them a little bit of leeway. Obviously, when the cities instruct us on certain things they want us to focus on, we're always happy to help that and do certain things. And we have no problem going out there and doing that. A lot of the stuff that we do, like you said, you want to give somebody a benefit of the doubt maybe, but it depends on what it is and the attitude that you get. If someone's going to be extremely rude about it, the same thing with a traffic stop. I don't have to give someone.
Is that information available to each sheriff as they approach? I mean, because it could be one person one day, another person another.
Yeah, yep. We all have, all of our computer systems relate to each other. So anybody's name that you run, any ID or identifications you run is linked up. So it can be somebody that works somewhere only one day. They issue that person the warning for an ordinance violation, whatever ordinance it may be. The person who comes the next day, if they run into that person again, that person can't say, oh, I've never been warned. The deputy should go check that, ensure that that's been run through. You just got a warning for this yesterday. We'll go from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Sure.
Is this a new statute, an update on a statute, or we're just bringing it to everyone's attention?
I think we're just bringing it to attention. It was something that was, I believe, requested to get some more.
Yes, this is nothing new. This is just a, did you know? This is an educational opportunity.
Follow up. If a child, let's say with autism or whatever, had an emotional support animal, does that qualify as ADA, or do they have to take it to the certain step, like created to be ADA, and then in that situation, that child on the beach with their family, would that be allowed?
So and I'm not gonna, I'm not an expert on what goes with that. But if a child has an autism disorder, and it's diagnosed, and that animal's for specific tasks, say to calm that child down, then that wouldn't be, that shouldn't fall under, I wouldn't think, based on ADA definition, that wouldn't fall. That's providing a specific task for that person. So it wouldn't be, if they said it's an emotional support, they might be erroneous in what they're saying and not knowledgeable about what it is. But I would say that there would be a decent assumption that that dog may be serving a purpose. If not, there'd be something they would want to look into to find out for sure.
Parents required to take the steps to have it listed as a
Not,
ADA support.
not necessarily. I mean, I would obviously expect they probably would get a certain breed or a certain training to affect that. I would think, but I'm not gonna say I'm an expert on that. But if they say it's just for emotional support, it would depend on that. We're not going to be asking for specific documents and paperwork for them to prove that. So if they say it's emotional support and this is the only reason, but then if they, in the same breath, they tell us, well, my child is nonverbal autistic, it might be something we look at a little bit differently rather than threatening a criminal allegation. We might be more informative because I would be very, that would be something we want to be a little sympathetic to.
All right. Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you very much, all. Thank you.
All right. Moving to discussion items. Does anybody have anything they would like to bring up to the board? Nobody?
4th of July.
4th of July?
Yeah, who's stopping 4th of July fireworks on the beach? Everybody?
Everybody.
We have placed signs throughout town stating the county ordinance that prevents fireworks. So we doing a little educational outreach.
We also, in Indian Shores, passed an ordinance, a curfew ordinance of 10 o'clock. Not to, it's to give our police, we have our own police, to give them a tool to use for some, if there's kids out there being disruptive or having drugs or drinking and drunk, to be able to do something. A tool for that after 10 o'clock. So that's a recently passed curfew. We had it, excuse me, we had it last year for a finite amount of time. We extended it this year because it does get out of hand with underage kids coming to Indian Shore specifically. I don't know about your other beach, the other beaches, but that's a proactive thing and an agreement with the sheriff's office to take care of those kids that might be rounded up by our police force, and an agreement with the sheriff's office to take care of them after the fact if the parents won't come and take care of their children, which that happens. Actually, our police have had experience on other 4th of Julys where the parents have been called. They're not there with their children and they get called and they say, well, I can't come. Well, we have a way to take care of that as well through the sheriff's office.
Thank you very much.
We're making a really big PR push to make people aware that we are going to be stepping up enforcement this year, and we're utilizing 3 ordinances that we already had on the books, which are our leave no trace ordinance, because the personal fireworks are just a huge source of litter the next day. Our beach cleanups are overwhelmed with picking up all the remnants of the personal fireworks that don't get cleaned up. And then our turtle lighting ordinance, and then open flames on the beach is not allowed as well. So we're not permitted as cities, I don't believe, to pass any new ordinances that ban personal fireworks with the changes that have been made at the state level. So we're using those 3 as tools to, those 3 things combined kind of equal no personal fireworks on the beach. So we do have, we put up variable message boards coming into the city that are already up right now that say no personal fireworks on the beach, and our beach cleanup crews are going to be out there passing out some information. We have our PIO put together a flyer that they can pass out and goes through. Each one of those comes with a, I think, $85 ordinance violation. So could potentially be looking at almost $300 if you're violating it. Because it's been really bad the last couple of years, especially in our really.
Are you confiscating fireworks? Writing tickets?
I'm not sure how our police is going to enforce it yet.
Thank you, Tyler. That's excellent information. And just to be clear, we all fall under the county's ban on fireworks. So fireworks are not allowed through Pinellas County. So
But the state made an exception for July 4th, New Year's.
But the county, you can have an ordinance that is stricter than the state, which
Right.
is what Pinellas County has done. So the simple way to remember it is if it goes up or blows up, it's not allowed. Moving on to the legislative update, I saw Representative Linda Cheney come in. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for having me. We've had quite an exciting legislative session, but don't we always? I want to thank you all as the local representatives of District 61 and beyond. You all, I think, are doing the hardest work, seeing your constituents in the grocery stores and, you know, things that we don't necessarily deal with at the state level. So I appreciate all the hard work that you do and all the hard decisions that you have to make on a regular basis. So thank you. So this year, the budget was just signed by the governor, $116.5 billion. This is a balanced budget. The state of Florida has a requirement to pass a balanced budget. If we don't have the money, we don't spend the money. What a concept, huh? We also paid down about 25% of our long-term debt, which is what gives the state of Florida such a great bond rating for financing. And we put a lot of money into reserves. I think you all probably have heard the bad news that this is anticipated to be a really strong storm season. Duke Energy says they have the best meteorologists in the business, and they say it's bad. So the state of Florida is prepared, is all I can tell you. And we are helping our residents to be prepared. We refunded the My Safe Florida Home program to help residents fund resiliency efforts in their homes, like hurricane windows, doors, waterproofing their roofs, replacing their roofs, strengthening their roofs. So that fund opens July 1st, and that money goes fast. So if you know of residents who are considering this, they can go online right now and they can start preparing to see what they're going to need to be able to qualify to get this money. We also started a new program called My Safe Florida Condo to do the same kind of resiliency efforts for our condominium buildings. So again, if you've got condos, tell them to get online now, see what they need to do. If they need help, call my office, we'll help them. So some of the funding that I was able to get through on a local level, there were lots of vetoes, lots of crying. The locals really had a tough go of it in this budget session. I normally have between $20 and $30 million in appropriations for local projects. This session, I had just under 8 million. So that's how many vetoes there were, and that was across the board. So the local communities that were fortunate enough to get into the budget, and I can't tell you why, I fought equally for all of you and for all of my projects, and some made it and some did not, and I cannot tell you rhyme or reason for that. Madeira Beach seawall replacement, 100,000. St. Pete Beach stormwater, 625,000. Lots of veterans programs, 838,000. And I also got a look back study funded. So I believe you all know look back is the time frame that a resident can do improvements to their property within the FEMA 50% cost of their depreciated value of their home. So look back time periods are set by community. They're all different. So the city of St. Petersburg has a 0 look back. Open a permit, close it, open a permit. No delay. The city of St. Pete Beach has a 5-year look back. And Bel Air just reduced theirs from 5 to a year based on a study that was done because with the new flood 2.0, a lot of those benefits that were provided to communities to reduce their flood insurance or improve their ratings have disappeared with that flood 2.0. So it's time to relook at that. When some actual properties were reviewed with the new flood 2.0, the discount was $11. So not worth it to not be able to make the most resilient home that you possibly can. Ideally, we'd all put our homes up 15 feet into the air maybe would get off the shore, but off of the water, but that is not reality, right? So if a home has been flipped and the previous owner put lipstick on the pig, some beautiful granite countertops, maybe some cheap windows and doors, and it looks beautiful and they maximize their resale price. The new owner comes in, says, I want hurricane windows and doors. I'm going to take advantage of my safe Florida home. If there's a 5-year look back, like St. Pete Beach, the city will say, I'm sorry, you can't do that work. So that resident could sit there vulnerable through storms for 5 years, thinking that it's best for the community because of the discount, when in reality, the discount may only be $11, not worth it. So that's what my study is looking into. If you want any more information, maybe have your communities take a look at the same thing. Happy to, share any information I can with you. I don't know what I'm going to do with the study, but I certainly want to do everything we can to make our residents as resilient as possible. In the long run, it's going to reduce insurance rates for everybody.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
So that study will it be conducted at the state level? Is it being conducted by a specific agency?
Statewide, and it is due December 1st.
Okay.
So if we can take legislative action out of the study, we'll have time. I am working very closely with OIR, Office of Insurance Regulation, to make sure that study is, provides good information. We get lots of studies at the state that get shoved in a top drawer because they just really like, well, okay, nice study. So I'm working very closely with them, reviewing all of the language, making sure that study is relevant and provides us with some actionable information. My door is always open. If you've got some input, you want to talk to me, now is the time, because we're working on it now. So for some of the communities who had their projects vetoed, I would encourage you to look at the DEP website, because there's still lots of grants there that may help you. I know some of the projects that were vetoed, I believe, would qualify for some of these grants. The categories are water quality improvement, stormwater and wastewater, land and recreation, resiliency, park and open spaces. So if you just go to the DEP website, there's millions of dollars. You get a grant, you get a grant. Okay, so head on over there, check it out, apply. I will write a support letter on your behalf to the DEP. I work very closely with DEP. I have a great relationship with them. I will do everything I can to advocate for you and for your needs to get a hold of that money. And if you need help understanding that, working through that, my office can help. I also can leave with you, Mr. Chair, the contacts for the different grants, their names, their emails, their phone numbers. So very specific information to apply for those grants. I encourage you to do that. I would love to see District 61 be like the lead in getting all the DEP grants, and Clearwater. Visit Florida got funded at 80 million. 5 million of that is earmarked for nature-based tourism. So if you have some of those programs, you might want to reach out to Visit Florida and see if you can get your programs mentioned in their advertising, somehow get incorporated with them. FDLE got a new pass-through grant for $20.5 million for the local law enforcement to execute online sting programs, drug enforcement targeted at the fentanyl issues we've got, hardening private schools. That's new. And their body armor needs, funding that. So a lot of the body armor is old, or they need more body armor. So that's been done. Legislatively, we typically have about 3,000 bills filed. A lot of bills, right? There's 120 legislators, 40 senators. Everybody's got a great idea. So there's about 3,000 that are filed. So far, 284 have been signed. We try not to pass laws that we don't really need. We try to keep government small, but we also try to respond to the needs of our communities. And a lot of the bills that I file come up from the community. So I appreciate if any of you have provided me with information, your residents provide me information that I act on. So the most recent bill that was signed for me, that was a big battle right to the finish line. I was working with the governor's office like right up to moments before it was signed, the balloon release bill. So now in the intentional release of a balloon is now part of the litter statute, subject to a $150 fine. Previously, you could release up to 9 balloons. There was an allowance for biodegradable, which there's no such thing. We know balloons are harmful to our wildlife, actually to livestock. I know of a pregnant cow, she and the baby died from ingesting a balloon. I went to the University of Florida, visited with their veterinary school. They do operations all the time on livestock that have balloon strings all tangled up. And it's bad for the environment. I mean, that's microplastics into our environment. So there's really no good reason to release a balloon and a lot of bad reasons. So it is now part of the litter statute. In talking with our Sheriff Galtieri, it is not the intention of me nor of the sheriff's office to be handing out tickets like candy on Halloween. What we're trying to do is change the culture for people to understand balloons are harmful. They are litter. You shouldn't be littering, whether you're driving down the road, throwing garbage out your car window, or you're releasing a balloon. It's litter, it's bad, don't do it. So that's what that bill's about. I sponsored and passed DEP's big department package, which focused on improving water quality standards and providing grants to the community for that. We also established a whole new area in southeast Florida on the coast there as an environmentally protected area, the coral reef areas. So we're protecting the reefs. There were some cruise ship issues over there and some boaters anchoring on the coral reefs. And as we know, those are so important to our water quality and our community. I also carried FWC's package this year, which they requested that we further strengthen the derelict vessel laws. So they now can go out, tag the boat, notify the owner, and within the allotted time frame, pull the boat. Before, they would have to go out, tag it, come back, notify, go back. So there was like 3 different trips they were having to make. It was extending the time that it would take to pull that boat, which was probably releasing pollution through whatever was on the boat. It's a hazard for other boaters. So we've now made it much more efficient use of FWC's time so they can actually be patrolling the waters for the things that they need and protecting our waterways, our boaters, and clean water. My youth worker bill aligns our statute, our Florida statutes with the federal statutes. So 17 and 18-year-olds now can work beyond 30 hours a week with parental permission. We still in the state of Florida have much more stringent safety laws within the workplace. So we are still much more stringent than the feds and have helped our small businesses be able to hire. We all know we have hiring issues still. I'm a small business owner. We struggle to get staffing, so hopefully this will help. I also sponsored the Jimmy Buffett license plate bill, which Jimmy Buffett has a nonprofit called Sing for Change. And $1 of every concert ticket would go into that fund and fund a variety of things. So because he's not touring anymore, we wanted to replace that money with proceeds from the license plate, and it's going to go to disaster recovery within the state of Florida. And if they pre-sell 3,000 plates, which with the millions of parrot heads they have, they anticipate that's going to happen in the first day. So that license plate is part of a larger package, which I also carried and sponsored, which was the license plate package for the entire state of Florida, including 9 license plates, 2 revisions to some existing plates. And one of the plates within that is renaming A1A Jimmy Buffett Highway. So the son of a sailor, our adopted son, is going to be honored in the state of Florida. And then last but not least, drum roll, vacation rentals. So I voted down on vacation rentals. And I've made it known to leadership and the governor that my district does not support vacation rentals and have requested that it be vetoed. He has till July 15th. The bill is on his desk. He has till July 15th to sign it, veto it, or let it automatically become law on July 15th. So the bill is in play. And with that, I thank you all for having me. Like I said, my door's always open. Please reach out if I can help in any way.
Thank you very much, Linda. Does anybody have any questions for our representative?
I've got a couple.
Of course.
Well, first of all, thanks. I know you were a former commissioner for St. Pete Beach, so thanks for your service there. The FWC derelict vessel thing, that kind of got my interest. So who pays to tow that thing to wherever it's going to go?
That comes out of an FWC fund. They try to get the owner to pay. It typically doesn't happen. A lot of times with these derelict vessels, one of two situations. One, somebody buys a boat, they think, they move to Florida from a northern state, they think it's a great idea. They find out it costs money to take care of a boat. They're not capable of doing that, and so they just abandon it. The other situation is the person actually moves out of state. And the FWC can barely locate them, which was the reason that they wanted to accelerate this process, because there's a lot of people like that. So taxpayers, ultimately, taxpayers, sadly, we do pursue the owners to try to get, recoup some of the funds, but typically, no.
Okay. My other thanks for that. My other question was on the My Safe Florida home thing. Last time I logged on like 2 months ago, it was closed down for any new entries. So is you saying that's already open for new?
No, it won't be available till July 1st.
Okay.
The money is not available till July 1st, live applications July 1st, but you can go online now, and I recommend everyone go online now just to understand what the qualifications are, what kind of documents you're gonna need, what process you're gonna have to go through. Their contact information is on there. I'm told that they've been very helpful with residents who call with questions. If you find that's not the case, call my office. We'll help you.
Thank you. And I'd like to speak with you afterwards.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Thank you very much, Linda. Thank you for
Okay.
being here.
Would you like the DEP grant information?
Yes, Adriana can take that
Okay.
and she will distribute that to all the members.
Okay.
Thank you
all.
very much.
Keep up the great work.
You too. Okay, moving on to city events. Bill, can you start us?
Everything's quiet in North Reading Beach.
All is quiet in Indian Rocks Beach.
Well, we're planning a beach cleanup after 4th of July, again, for the citizens, along with our public services people who have a monumental job to do after 4th of July. So we have our citizens do a beach cleanup as well.
Thank you.
Well, there've been plenty of moments of the first 3 months of my term that I wish things had been quiet in Clearwater. But good, and some we've had to deal with some difficult issues, but just want to mention 3 things. We did Hurricane Preparedness Expo in collaboration with Pinellas County government that I attended. It was extremely well received by our community, not just residents of Clearwater, but we had residents from all over Pinellas County come out. We passed out 3,000 sandbags at that morning event. And when we had vendors there, we had all kinds of education for folks. And I was able to talk with some of the folks in the car line about, what prompted them to come there and how they'd heard about it. And it was interesting to me that the turnout we had, which is huge, was partly because of what Representative Cheney just said, that there's quite a bit of anxiety among our residents about the coming storm season and the forecast for a strong storm season. But the other thing too that I think we all need to remember is that not all of us have been here for 10, 20, 30 years. And so for a lot of the folks I talked to, they had relocated here within the last year or two, and they've not been through a really hard storm, and they are scared to death. So I was really thankful to our staff for working with Pinellas County government to pull that together, and I'm sure, even though we had residents from outside Clearwater attend that, and participate. I'm sure there are folks in your communities too that are anxious and I thanked many of them from coming out early now before storms are even on the forecast, because we all know that when the day of reckoning comes, when you really need it, last thing we need is running out of sandbags and all those things that come with it. So it helps our first responders and our police and fire to have folks be prepared. Second thing I just want to mention, because I think it's important to the entire county and region and those of us who are north on the Gulf Coast, but we approved renovations to our Clearwater Marina, Beach Marina, cost of $43 million, which it went from 18 to 40, actually 48. We value engineered it down to 43. So we're still trying to figure out how the price got up so high so quickly over 2.5 years. But we haven't done a lot of these renovations and upgrades since the 1950s. And so we really needed to do that. And so hopefully we'll start this fall and complete that in the next 1.5 years. And hopefully that will be good for our entire county, all of our residents throughout Pinellas County. And the last thing is we do allow fireworks in Clearwater on 4th of July. In fact, we have a really big one that we support, and that's our Clearwater Celebrates America, which will be 4th of July. So the Florida Orchestra will be playing again, performing. Last year it was a ticketed event in the sound. And this year, we worked with Ruth Eckerd Hall. It will not be a ticketed event, so folks can come inside and enjoy it for free and then step outside to watch our fireworks display. So invite everyone here to attend our 4th of July celebration in Clearwater.
Thank you.
All quiet on Bel Shore, all 53 homes.
All quiet in Bel Air Beach.
In Reddington Beach, on July 4th, we are going to have our annual golf cart parade starting at 10 a.m. at Town Park. So this has been a very fun, amazing event. Our residents love to decorate their golf carts and drive around town. So come on out for that.
In Madeira Beach, Friday, we have Final Friday. And we also have the Madeira Beach Sunset 5K. Final Friday starts at 6, the 5K starts at 6:30. And then we will be having our fireworks on July 3rd, right here at Rock Park. 7 p.m. starts the music, 9 p.m. will start the fireworks show.
All peaceful in Reddington Shores, nature's beach. No fireworks.
We will also be having fireworks hosted by the city on the beach, not personal fireworks, on 4th of July at 9 p.m. And then we're also doing our Treasure Island Adopt-A-Beach is doing a beach cleanup twice over the weekend. So one the morning after 4th of July to catch the litter that is going to inevitably be there, even though we're stepping up enforcement. So that'll be on the 5th at 8 a.m. And then also on Sunday, the 7th, at the end of the weekend at 6 p.m. And then Treasure Island Adopt-A-Beach is also coordinating an effort to pass out trash bags and koozies. There'll be a trash bag stuck inside a little koozie. We have 1,000 of them to distribute over the weekend. So if anyone wants to go out there, they have a post on Facebook. You can reach out and you can really do it at your leisure. Just go out and pass out some trash bags so that we can keep all the trash in bags instead of on the beach. So, and just to clarify, we do allow, or fireworks are allowed on private property in Treasure Island. So if you want to set it off in your backyard on the 4th of July, that's what the intention of the state law, I think, was. So just don't bring them out to the beach.
Well, good morning. First of all, my apologies for being late. I decided to drive from Paso Grill all the way to Indian Rocks Beach to find out that the meeting was actually here. So my apologies. This is my last meeting, so I appreciate getting to know some of you. I wish I'd spent a little longer time, but I was one of those guys that stepped into the breach when our 4 commissioners resigned due to we all know the financial disclosure forum fund. So I'll be Zooming on the road. We're hooking up the camper here in a couple of weeks, and we're disappearing to Northeast Canada for a month, actually several months. But anyway, I'll be Zooming in my remaining meetings, and it's been a pleasure. Wish I'd got to know a few of you a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next meeting location will be in Bel Air Beach. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming out today, and I hope that you found this informative. Oh, Linda, you have something?
Legislative Appreciation Award. Is that okay, Dave?
Great, shoot.
Sorry, didn't mean to. Sorry, I also had to take a drive down Gulf Boulevard. I got the wrong location as well. So I'll be very brief. My name is Sam Wagner. Good morning. I'm with the Florida League of Cities. And every year, the League of Cities recognizes those legislators with Legislative Appreciation Awards for those members who advocate on behalf of our mission, support the league's policy positions, and offer amendments to help fight back against other preemptions. And they rally support for local government, as you heard that here. And Representative Linda Cheney is exactly one of those members. So I looked up the Big C last night and I had to figure out what y'all's mission was. It turns out it's to stimulate communication between the barrier islands, the barrier cities to discuss problems common to all. And I think this venue couldn't be a more perfect opportunity to present that legislative award to a member who embodies that exact mission. This year, Representative Cheney had House Bill 49. This is her young employment bill. And a curfew of minors. And through that process, she kept an open door. She worked with the League of Cities to amend the language to get the bill in a position where we could support it. And because of her commitment to stimulate the discussion and work with us, it was my distinct honor to nominate you for a Legislative Appreciation Award. So if you guys would please join me in a round of applause for Representative Linda Cheney. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This means a lot to me. To be a local representative means a whole lot to me, and appreciate all your support and Florida League. And he's absolutely right. I work with everyone when I'm working on a bill. So if you hear of anything, you just call me up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well now we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.